In the world of AI, the hardware that powers everything, well, that's where the real power is. For years, one company has absolutely dominated, seemingly untouchable. But not too long ago, a single piece of news suggested a new challenger is stepping into the ring. So what happens when the undisputed king's throne starts to wobble? Let's dive into this high-stakes battle for the future of AI. It all kicked off with just one report. It was barely more than a rumor, really, that one of the biggest buyers of AI hardware on the planet was looking for a new supplier. And let me tell you, in this AI gold rush, when the companies selling the shovels are this dominant, even a tiny rumor can cause an earthquake. And this was the immediate result, a 3% drop in stock value for Nvidia. Now, you might be thinking, 3%, so what? But hold on. For a company of Nvidia's size, we are talking about billions of dollars in value. Just gone, vanished in a single day. So what on earth could cause that kind of panic?
It was a single ripple, sure, but it came from a very, very big source.
So here's the bombshell. A report claimed that Meta, that Meta, one of Nvidia's single biggest customers, was considering a deal to use Google's own custom AI chips. Just think about that for a second. That's like finding out that a restaurant chain that only serves Coca-Cola is suddenly taking meetings with Pepsi. It's a huge deal. It's not just about one lost sale. It's a crack in the very foundation of their dominance.
So, how does a titan like Nvidia react when a challenger appears at the gates? Well, not with fear, that's for sure. They came back with a very, very bold claim.
But first, to really get their reaction, you have to understand their position. Nvidia isn't just the market leader. They're kind of the whole market. According to most analysts, they control over 90% of the AI chip market. This isn't just dominance, folks. It's a near monopoly. Okay, so with that 90% share in mind, their public response was anything but defensive. They came out swinging with this statement, basically just declaring that they are a full generation ahead of any competitor out there. Talk about a clear message to the market. So how do they back that up? Well, Nvidia's argument is that their chips, like their brand new Blackwell generation, offer a lot more than just raw power. They're versatile. They can run pretty much any AI model you throw at them. And crucially, they're fungible, meaning they can be easily swapped and used across all sorts of different computer systems. They're basically positioning themselves as the universal, one-size-fits-all tool for the entire AI age. But here's the thing, being a universal tool isn't the only way to win this game. What if you build a specialized tool that does one thing and does it perfectly? Let's take a look at Google's alternative and what makes it such a credible threat. And this is what we're talking about, the Tensor Processing Unit, or TPU. It's what's called an ASIC, which stands for Application-Specific Integrated Circuit. And the name really says it all. It's a chip built for one specific purpose. And in this case, that purpose is to run AI and only AI with the absolute maximum efficiency. And this just brilliantly illustrates the core difference here. Think of Nvidia's GPU as a brilliant all-rounder, an Olympic decathlete who's just great at everything. Google's TPU, on the other hand, is the specialist. It's the marathon runner. It might not be great at shot put, but in its one specific event, it's pretty much unbeatable. It's a classic trade-off between versatility and hyper-focused efficiency. And Google has a massive proof point for their approach. Their latest state-of-the-art AI model, Gemini 3, wasn't trained on Nvidia hardware. Nope. It was trained exclusively on their own TPUs. This is Google's way of showing the world, hey, our chips aren't just an experiment. They are the engine we use to build our most advanced AI. That is a huge vote of confidence in their own hardware. Now, you might be thinking this is shaping up to be a simple David versus Goliath story, but the relationship between these two companies is way more complicated and, frankly, a lot more interesting than that. Because this is not a simple fight at all. In the world of big tech, your biggest rival can also be your most important partner. There's a concept for it called co-opetition, part cooperation, part competition, and it perfectly describes what's happening right here. So let's break down just how tangled this web really is. Despite developing its own chips, Google is still a massive customer for Nvidia. And that Gemini model, even though it was trained on Google's hardware, it can also run on Nvidia's. And on top of all that, the communication lines are wide open. The CEOs of Nvidia and Google's AI division are literally texting each other. Google's public stance backs this up completely. They're not framing this as an either-or situation.
They see demand for both their own specialized chips and Nvidia's versatile ones just exploding. They're not trying to replace Nvidia, they're building an alternative path for themselves and for all of their cloud customers.
So, with all this co-opetition, what's the big picture? Why does this fight for the future of AI chips matter to anyone who's not in Silicon Valley?
Well, it all comes down to a core belief in the AI industry known as scaling laws. The theory is simple, but it's incredibly profound. If you throw more computing power and more data at a problem, you will reliably get a smarter, more capable AI. And Nvidia's CEO is a huge believer in this. He argues that as long as this idea holds true, the demand for processing power won't just continue, it's going to accelerate. The hunger for more chips could become practically infinite. And that leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? Is this a zero-sum game, a fight to the death where only one chip architecture can win? Or, as those scaling laws suggest, is the demand for AI computation growing so incredibly fast that the market is becoming an expanding universe with more than enough room for multiple stars to shine? That's what we'll be watching.